What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another week of the golf show for Sports 2.0 Network. I'm Justin Unken with Grant Bale.
Howdy.
It was a wild week last week at the U.S. Open. We were borderline all over it, but at one point we had Rory and Bryson in first and second with about 10 holes left. And it just didn't go good from there on. I was sitting on a Brooks, Morikawa, and Rory ticket, and all three of them were one shot back with like 10 holes left. And that went away really quickly. Jon Rahm just kept making pars, and then two awesome putts on 17 and 18 to win.
Yeah, we had a pretty good week, even with how we ended up. But going into Sunday, before it even started, we had the top two favorites on the board as our outright picks. So we had everything going for us. I think Bryson was leading with 9 holes to go, right? I think he turned, and he was in.
He was in the lead. He was at 5 under. I was sitting there with my wife, and Bryson was at 5, and there was like 7 guys at 4, and I had 3 of them. And then, man, Bryson really, really stumbled, and those other guys, it was like Rory double, Morikawa bladed one over the green and made a double, and Rahm just outlasted him, really. I mean,
right.
The other guys just kind of faded, and he just kept making pars, and then bam, 2 big breaking putts on 17 and 18 to win.
Yeah, it was nice to see those putts go in because with everybody kind of choking away, it wasn't like they just gifted him a major, right? He still had to do a little something at the end to finish it off. He could have went into a playoff. He could have went into a playoff with Louis and still won. We've seen Louis in a playoff before, and it wasn't great. But Jon Rahm did what he had to do to win. He held on for as long as he could. He finished the golf course just like he should by sinking 2 major putts, and he gets his first big major win. The question now will be, how long does he stay at number 1 in the world? Because he has the talent to be there for a long, long time.
Yeah, I think this was a little bit of validation for him. For the earlier part of his career, it was a bit of a temper thing. People thought his temper and his temperament wasn't conducive to winning majors. Obviously, he's improved that. I think that's part of the reason he was able to win.
Right.
But, man, he played some really, really good golf. When all those other guys started feeling the heat, something happened to all of them.
Absolutely.
Wasn't an accident, and he hung in there and gave himself a chance and took advantage of it with those putts. I feel for Louis. He's such a likable guy. He played so good, and just came up a fuzz short again. What's he got, like 6 seconds in majors now? Yeah. That's impressive. I mean, he's probably a borderline Hall of Famer, especially if he has a couple more good finishes. So that will be interesting. But all in all,
Louis doesn't have a PGA Tour win, correct?
Well, he won the Open Championship, so I don't know if they count that or not. But he's never won in America.
He's never won here, but he has all of those seconds and then the Open Championship. It's crazy the major stretch that he's had. Like you said, to not get in any of these wins, it's still extremely impressive for a guy who doesn't even hit it very far.
Yeah, and he doesn't really play the PGA Tour, really. I mean, if you go look at his schedule the last few years, he doesn't really play that much. He did say he decommitted to playing for South Africa in the Olympics to compete for FedEx Cup, he said. So we're going to see him some of the rest of the year. That'll be interesting to see if maybe he can steal the win in America here over the next couple months, and got the Open coming up here in a few weeks also. So. But it was a decent week for us. I hit the backdoor Brooks over Bryson matchup, hit the Brooks top 10, and Rory was right in it. Can't really ask for much more. You hit a margin winner. Other than that, it wasn't real impressive. But
yeah, I hit a Paul Casey top 20.
That's right.
And then the margin winners, and we talked about it last week, and I said if you wanted a little more risk, take the playoff. And then it came down to Louis making the birdie putt on 18 to drop it to 1 stroke. So we had a pretty good cushion with Rahm's birdie there on the 18. Louis kind of screwed us by not giving us 2 because the odds were better, but to have that cushion, 1 and 2 strokes has been fire, and we'll have that again this week.
Yep. Well, this week tour heads to Connecticut for the Travelers Championship. Did not expect to see a very good field. I pulled up the odds board, and there was a bunch of guys: Bryson, Brooks, DJ, Cantlay, among others, teeing it up this week. San Diego to Connecticut is pretty far. Didn't expect to see them. Maybe this is a sponsor deal. I don't know how many of these guys have a traveler sponsor we don't know about, or maybe there's another sponsor. But they're also trying to get points for FedEx Cup, some of them. So maybe that's part of it. And DJ's defending champ. But TPC River Highlands for the Travelers Championship, it is short. It's like the 8th or 10th shortest course that they'll play all year, 6,800 yards, par 70. Like most short courses, it's pretty tight. It's bent grass POA mix on the greens. This has usually been a putting contest. You got to make a ton of birdies. Most of the guys who've been able to win have putted really well. Obviously, to make 20, 25 birdies in a week, you're going to have to putt really good. You're going to have to be good with your irons. Off the tee is not going to matter so much this week. There's not a ton of places where you can just let it loose. I'll be interested to see Bryson's strategy on a few of these holes. Put it in the fairway. That's step number 1 to scoring here. Put it in the fairway, and you're going to have short irons. I mean, I pulled up Fantasy National, went to course breakdown, and from 175 to 200, those approach shots are way down compared to a normal event, and the 125 to 150 and 150 to 175 are way up. So you're looking at tons and short irons and wedges, and it's going to be one of those deals: pitch and putt. See who's the best with their wedges. See who can really get hot with the putter. Not my favorite tournament to handicap, just because putting is really hard to predict, even round to round, let alone week to week. But I have a formula I'm going to test out this week for these type of pitch and putting contest type of tournaments that I'll go over when I start going over some of my picks. But this is the beta of that strategy.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because we talked about this earlier. Is that PGA Split stat earlier this week said the average approach shot was about 20 yards shorter than your average PGA Tour event, and 20 yards to the average, that's a humongous number. For these courses. So that'll be interesting. But I think that, and we'll see it a little bit later in our picks, is that big hitting is not really discouraged here. You can still hit it pretty far and have even shorter wedges, but it doesn't rule out any of the shorter guys, because they can still have those 150 to 175 shots. That's still an easy club for them. I mean, that's an easy club for a normal player, let alone a pro.
Yeah.
So it's going to bring in a lot of players, but if you do gain off the tee, I think that it could really help you this week. Like you said, it's going to be a putting contest no matter what. But I'm going to use some big hitters this week also. I'm going to sprinkle in a couple.
I'm going to use some big hitters as well. If you look at past champs, Bubba has won 3 times here. DJ won last year, but you get some guys like Chez Reavie and Russell Knox, I think, won this event before he was hitting it pretty far. So
yeah,
Brian
Harman.
Open. Brian Harman has a really good track record here. I think that pretty much everyone is in play as long as you hit your short irons really well and putt the ball, which the iron stuff you can kind of predict, but the putting, it's a little more up in the air. Obviously, some guys putt better than others, but we'll see.
Yeah, the putting is even harder to predict, and we haven't really talked about this much, but the putting you need to do to win on tour is always above your average no matter what, whether you're a good putter or a bad putter. It's always higher than what your average is. So you can't predict guys' baseline, because that's never good enough to win. It never is. So you have to putt better than what you're at, and that goes for every single player. So it's going to be hard in a place like this week where everybody has a bunch of opportunities. It's going to be even higher to try to make those putts. So it's going to be tough. But if we can kind of get lucky here and there, catch a couple hot streaks, I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm like you were just saying, that's an interesting point you just made. JT is the perfect example of this. He has this floor that he's created with his tee to green game. And if he does his main tee to green game and putts his average, he finishes like 10th. But if he putts better than his average, which his average isn't even that good, his average is like not losing but not gaining. If he putts above average, he's holding the trophy. And
Right.
if you look at a guy like Brian Harman, who's a little bit better putter, he's already relying so much on his putting that, maybe he has to hit his irons a little bit better, but he's definitely going to have to hit his average, if not do better than his average with his flat stick. Puts a lot of pressure on that. So I kind of like the guys who are not bad putters, but aren't necessarily like really, really great ones that they're not putting a ton of pressure on their putter. Like DJ, for example, he's a good putter, but when he gets hot, the rest of his game is so good. It's like nuclear hot. Same with Bubba. When he was winning all these events, he was so good tee to green. And for whatever reason, he just likes this course, but he putted well all those weeks too. So while it's hard to predict, I like I said, I have a formula / beta strategy that I'm going to deploy this week for that I may start using going forward for these Super Birdie Fest events.
Okay, we'll see how it works. Let's start it off.
My first outright, Scotty Scheffler, 22-1. I think you can find it at 24, depending on where you look. Scheffler kind of fits the Bubba DJ mold of a longer guy who's still really good with his irons. He's got 3 top 10s in his last 4 starts. He's playing really, really good. He's one of those guys that can get really, really hot and shoot an 8-under round. We saw him shoot 59 last fall at the first playoff event. He's been putting pretty good. He's gained at least 3 strokes putting in 3 of his last 4 starts. He's up there in strokes gained approach and off the tee. And so my stats that I'm using this week to kind of narrow my field, there's 3 of them. Strokes gained approach, which I use every week. It's the biggest indicator of success every single week. Opportunities gained, which is a fantasy national stat for shots that are within 20 feet of the hole, either fringe or on the green. I believe it's 20 feet. I'd have to look for sure, but I think it's 20 feet. And birdies are better gained, which is like your percentage of holes that finish in birdie or at birdie or eagle or hole in one, whatever.
Right.
So those are the 3, because you're going to have to make a ton of birdies. And to make a ton of birdies, you're going to have to get it close and be good with your irons. So Scheffler, 21st over the last 36 rounds in approach, 3rd in birdies or better gained. His opportunities gained isn't great. That's kind of where he falls apart, but I think he can make up for it with his off the tee numbers. He's top 15 off the tee, top 20 around the green. So I like the fact that he can just go low.
Yeah, he's good, and he's good enough where we're starting to wonder where his win's going to come at. And
it's coming.
Right, because we know it's coming. We've seen those guys in his class and his age group who are talented as him have already had that success. We've seen him compete at humongous events with some of the best players in the entire world. The win is coming, and I'm right there with you. I would love to be there when he gets his first one, because I think it'll be pretty short. And in a field like here, in a course where he can really take advantage of it with his bombs and his approaches, I love his chance.
And he's not like a super Pete Dye specialist. We didn't mention that before. This is the Pete Dye design. Right. Now it's been redesigned by the PGA Tour since then, but it still has a little bit of Pete Dye-ishness to it. And Scheffler has some Pete Dye, some pretty good Pete Dye track record, just for what it's worth.
Yeah, I have 2 guys on my card who are Pete Dye guys. My next one, the Pete Dye guy, Abe Answer. I have him earlier in the week at 28-1 on William Hill. I think that number still stands. On the other books, it was definitely.
I bet it yesterday at 28-1.
Okay, and the other books are a little lower, 25 to 22-ish range, probably. I think 25 roughly. Like I said, I would have mentioned Pete Dye if we hadn't right there, because Abe Answer is Mr. Pete Dye. And if we recall back to last week, Abe Answer gifted me some money. He finished 1 shot behind Zalatoris in my matchup after they both played absolutely horrendous. Still won the matchup. It was great. He gifted me some money. I'm going to gift it back to him and let him try to win this event for us. I got some stats here for us. When I did Pete Dye stroke gained, I think it was last 24 rounds, he's number 1. He's always played well here. Everything was bad last week in his missed cut in the major, but his approach. That was the only thing that held up. So I like that sign. That does not scare me at all. He got 11th and 8th in his last 2 attempts here in the Traveler, so he has experience. He knows what he's doing. That plays into those Pete Dye rankings, right? And it kind of goes all into that. And before last week, before his miscut, at the major last week, 9 events before that, his worst finish was 26th in all 9 events. And that counts like 4 or 5 top 10s, top 20s all around the map, right under 26th. That's really, really good. And that's in the money every single week. I love his form coming in here. Give me a Pete Dye course. The field isn't going to crazy overpower him. 28-1 is, I think, a really good number. And I'm going to go with Abe Ancer.
Yeah, I've got no problem with Abe anytime you go Pete Dye. He's kind of in the Scheffler category that he is due for a W. So
yeah,
I like it. My second guy, he's straight in the mold of what I'm going after this week. Charlie Hoffman, 40-1. This is what you need to know. Strokes gained approach last 36 rounds. First. Opportunities gained over the last 36 rounds. First. Birdies are better gained over the last 36 rounds. Second.
Wow.
He's right down the alley for what I'm going for this week. Guys who hit it on the green, hit it close, and make their birdie putts. He was on a heck of a run going into the last couple of weeks. Memorial and U.S. Open kind of got him. He chipped horrible at the Memorial, finished in the 50s, made the cut, finished in the 50s at the U.S. Open. Not really his style, of course, but before that, he had 5 straight top 20s, 2 top 5s. And he's a guy who's proven he can win. He's won a couple times on tour, and I love his profile for this week. Like I said, those 3 stats are what I'm going to aim for this week, and he's number 1 in almost all 3.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier, is that when you play in these birdie fests, a lot more guys kind of enter the chat, as they say. A lot more guys kind of get pushed up because they have those opportunities, right? That kind of goes along just like what you're saying. There's more opportunities out there for these players. And
go look at the leaderboard on Thursday and see how many guys you know.
And if he's going to be number 1 in those opportunities and right there in those categories, I love that number at 40-1. And he's been performing well, so I like it.
Yeah, yep, he's on a good run.
Yeah, I got Aaron Wise at 80. So this is a little bit deeper of a guy. He made the cut here last year. He's a bad putter historically, but he's gained in his last 2 events. So I like that. I like the confidence with his putter. He's going to have to putt well to win. If we come Friday and he hasn't putt well either day, he probably won't make the cut. But we'll have no chance. So we have to putt well, but that's okay. We're going 80-1. We're going to take that chance. He got 17th at the PGA. He got top 10 at the Memorial. He's been playing pretty good here recently. His approach has always been good, and it's awesome here lately. He's in good ball striking form. If we can catch that hot putter, I like the chance we have. Aaron Wise at 80-1. This is just kind of what we've talked about. Another guy where we're going to have to try to catch that spike in his chart, right? Where it's like boom, the boom, the boom, boom. All of a sudden it comes back down on his putting. If he gives himself that chance, I like a ball striker like Aaron Wise at 80-1.
Yep, he's a nice dart throw. He's got a win on tour. You could do a lot worse than that. My top 10 this week is the absolute horse for the course pick. His outright number is terrible. Do not go bet that outright number. Brian Harman does not win near enough to be 18-1, but 2-1 to top 10. I like quite a bit. His last 7 starts, he has 6 top 20s. He fits pretty well into into my little strategy this week. He is 18th in birdies or better gained, 31st in opportunities gained, which isn't awesome. But he's faded a little bit in approach. Now, typically he's a pretty good approach player. In the last 3 weeks, he's been really good. Gained over 3 strokes each week on approach. He's a really, really good putter. He's one of those guys who you look up and he's just making everything for like 2 straight days. And his Travelers record and his Pete Dye record is pretty dang good. He's got 3 top 10s at this event, and I bet if you go and run your Pete Dye sort again, he's probably in the top 5. It's like him and Cantlay and those guys. But I love Harman this week. 2-1 to top 10. He's done it a few times this event. He's playing really, really well right now, and his irons seem to be coming around based on the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I like this bet. I'm right with you. I will never, ever, ever touch that Brian Harman outright number. That's just cannot
run the other direction.
Yeah. But him, the top 10 is perfect because he can play well and he'll be right there, right? He has no pressure to win. He just likes to come in here and play at a comfortable course where he doesn't have to get outpowered by anybody. He can shoot his shots. This is a great course for him, and we've seen that. I have it right here. He has 2 top 10s in his last 3 tries here at the Travelers. He clearly feels comfortable here, and 2-1 is a great number for a guy who doesn't really have to do that much besides just perform, like he has been.
Yep.
I got Niemann at 4-1. This is kind of a number play. 4-1 on my top 10 for Niemann is what kind of pushed me here to this bet. As far as talent and ceiling goes, Niemann's up there with the top guys in this field, right? Like easily in the top 10, right? Maybe top 5, top 4, like in that range. He's way up there. And I like the 4-1 top 10 because I think he could contend to win this event. And I like to just kind of have that on the backside because I'm not really sure he will win. I don't trust him that much. But I like the top 10 coverage at 4-1. That's a great number on him. He's also a Pete Dye guy. It's kind of his ball striking, his wedges. That's just kind of how these guys are. He was on the filter for the Pete Dye. He got 31st at the Open, which is okay. He's nothing crazy, but that field is obviously like 100 times stronger than this weekend. But his approach has been awesome. His approach has been, I'm looking at it right here. It was gain with, I think that's 9 events right there and only 1 that he was losing. So if his irons are in form and he goes out there with confidence, if he plays well, definitely on Thursday or Friday, like he has one of those rounds where he plays super well, he comes into the weekend, he's going to be a guy who's going to look for that top spot.
Yep. I'm not the Niemann whisperer. Seems like when I'm off him, he does really well. When I'm on him, he kind of fades. But I'm a Niemann believer. I think he's going to get a couple wins here at some point.
Yeah,
definitely. Who do you like for your top 20 this week? There's some really, really good value in top 20s, I think, this week.
Yeah, this is a good number. I love this. I've mentioned this guy on our show, I think twice now, maybe 2 or 3 times.
You are the whisper.
Yes. Emiliano Grillo. He is a super ball striker. It's hard to hit his putting, right? When he performs, he performs. And when he doesn't make the weekend. It happens all the time. There's a bunch of guys on tour just like this. I have Emiliano Grillo at 250. So he's this is kind of a unique stat that I have. Opportunities gained on short courses, right? So we're kind of mixing what you said with opportunities gained, and then I added on the short courses because this is at it's under 7,200 yards, which is like what you said. I think it's like 7th or a little lower than that as the shortest course on tour.
Yep.
And Grillo was number 2. So he's right there because he can not only because he has that ball striking that we talked about that if you just give him an opportunity to get up there, he's going to do it. He's going to hit those greens, and it's just a matter of putting. So he's been gaining on his approaches 8 of his last 9. He's made all 4 cuts at this event of the Travelers. Just give him the opportunities, and he'll be fine. Oh, I got a last one right here. Number 1 in par 4, 400 to 450. And
there's like 7 of them here.
Yeah, that's a hole that's going to be very popular here on the course. And if he's number 1, then I'm going to take him. So I really like Emiliano Grillo, 250 for a top 20.
Yeah, I like Grillo. Go check out my article on noobsports.com. That I had him for a top 20. He ranks 5th in opportunities gained, 5th in birdies or better gained, 4th in approach, and 5th in proximity from 150 to 175 for the last 36 rounds. He's firmly in my lane for this week. But perfect. I'm going a little bit farther down the board. Chez Reavie, 4-1 to top 20. He's a former winner of this event. He's a decent Pete Dye guy. This is one of those things where he hasn't really played very good. I think he missed like 6 cuts in a row before the last couple of weeks. And I was like thinking about getting on him at Palmetto just in the idea that he's better than what he's shown. It should be coming around, and boom, 14th at Palmetto, gained 4.4 on approach. Boom, 40th at the U.S. Open on a course that does not fit him whatsoever. He is a short hitter, gaining 5.8 on approach. He did not putt well out there. I like writing those approach numbers coming into a course that fits him way better than those courses. Those courses were 7,700 yards long each. Chez Reavie is a bunter. He hits it 260, but in the fairway. So getting him at 4-1 on a course that makes way more sense that he clearly loves. He won this tournament. I like it a lot. The top 30 and top 40 numbers are definitely playable as well. If you're not feeling quite as frisky.
Yeah, I like it. This is one of those things where you might catch a little bit of the of the number before the book does, right? Like if he
Yep.
performs well now it's when and he kind of hits the run, his numbers will start to drop. And if we can catch that right before, just like you talked about, on a course that fits him, that's a huge thing. That gets guys in a better mindset when they start the tournament, especially when you won. Like winning on the PGA Tour is such a big deal that if you come in and you've won, your previous winner, you have the media, you talk to all the guys that you were around here when you won with. It's just a confidence and something that I think he'll be just fine performing this week.
Yep. Well, the books gave us some matchups this week. Not a ton, but I didn't like most of them. There are a lot of guys that I like pitted against other guys that I like. I had to search for a while, but I found one on William Hill that I kind of like, and it is Ian Poulter over Justin Rose. We're gonna fade Justin Rose. I watched a lot of matchup coverage with him and Rory and DJ on Thursday and Friday, and he was terrible. He finished almost last in the whole tournament and just looked lost. He missed every shot right over and over and over again. Last 36 rounds, he ranks 78th in strokes gained approach, 86th and off the tee. He has a couple of good finishes, but his stats say that it's fluky. And if you go and look at those tournaments, he putted like crazy in a couple of them, gained around the green a bunch in another. So his form just doesn't match up. And Poulter, this is one of those courses that makes a ton of sense for Poulter. He can just take advantage of his really, really good putting. He's gained at least 4 strokes putting in 3 of his last 4. He's a decent iron player. He's not the best iron player, but he's good enough. He's made 4 straight cuts. He's got a 3rd, a 25th, a 30th, a 40th. So pretty good floor. And this course just makes sense. He's also got a little bit of Pete Dye success as well at the Players. So this is more of a Justin Rose fade. I think I got a decent floor with Poulter, and Rose looked downright awful last week.
Yeah, I try to mention this as much as possible because I think it's really important is when you bet matchups, the other guy can always play worse than your guy. It's always possible. It happened to me last week. Even if your guy
Zalatoris was terrible and won.
Yeah, and he won. Yeah, so I love this with a guy who you think, or not you, but us together, we think Poulter has a pretty high floor as far as like how he's going to perform. Let Rose do whatever he does, right? Who knows where it's going to be? We'll do what we do, and we're just going to try to cash the bet, and I like it at plus money because that's a good number. Yeah. I got Grillo over Bubba, so I'm going to ride Grillo a little bit more here on the matchup. Bubba, there's a little bit of hype around Bubba this week and recently in general, but I don't think it's been as good as people think it has. I think the number is priced wrong a little bit. So Bubba's the favorite at like 120. And I'm going to take Grillo here at the 110 because I think he's just as good or better here at this course on all the stuff that I said before. And I got Bubba here pulled up. He's lost on approach on his last 3 events.
Bad.
So he's been bombing it, right? He's been bombing it, kind of scrambling a little bit, making things happen, making cuts, but he hasn't been finishing that well. If his irons are going to continue to not be that well in a birdie fest where you have to be hitting these greens and have to be getting yourself good opportunities, I love Grillo against him. Yeah, I love
he's not a good enough putter to just hit bad iron shots all week.
No.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I'm all in on Grillo. The Bubba love has a lot to do with the fact that he's won this event 3 times, but I think it's a little unwarranted given his form.
Right. Yeah, that's what I meant. More of his recent stuff hasn't been that good to show like anything that's going to happen.
Definitely. Well, you're back with the margins again. I think you're 3-0 since we started the show.
Yeah, 3-0. And the funny part is the one week that I complained about it not happening is when it wouldn't have hit. So
appreciate that.
Yeah, we got a little lucky there after the fact. We're going to stick with it. Same exact bets. 1 stroke, 2 stroke, 225 and 350. So the 1 stroke isn't the biggest winner of all time when you bet them both, but it's still a win, right? We're not going to complain about winning. We're going to keep trucking along. 3-0. Let's go for 4-0. And it always keeps you engaged. Even if your guy falls out like mine did. I had Bryson and he shot like I don't even know what do you shoot on the back, like 40?
44.
Yeah, 44 on the back 9 of a major when he was leading. Yep. And I was still interested because I had the margins there at the end. So
yeah,
even when you get kicked out of it, it's a good thing to have. I like it 1 and 2 this week.
Yep. My bad golfer I'm betting this week. It's more of an unknown guy. I don't know that he's bad. If you watch the U.S. Open coverage Sunday, he was fist pumping all over the place.
Unbelievable.
He was making like 70 footers, chipping in, and then making a double, and then chipping in again. He was freaking out, but he finished fourth, which I'm pretty sure gets him into a whole slew of events. So it was a big time win for him. It was his first start on the PGA Tour. Guido Migliozzi. He's an Italian guy. He's got a ton of confidence. Fourth at the U.S. Open last week. His last two starts on the European Tour were second and second. He's riding pretty hot. He did most of his damage with his irons last week, and I'm going to ride it this week. I think that there's some pretty good value on him in the top 20. So I'm going to stick with him. I like his pizzazz. I like his attitude, and 3 top 5s in a row. Can't really complain about that.
No, it's great, and he's got a long flight this week, so he's going to be fist pumping and watching all of his clips from the TV coverage over his way to Connecticut this week. I like it, and his last name's a little hard to pronounce, but I like it because he's just kind of a fan favorite, jumping all around, fist pumping, and he's got a great Guido. Come on, Guido.
I know. He is 350 to top 20, plus 350 to top 20.
350, so. Okay.
And it'll be fun to watch. I hope he's in it just so we can see him like hole a 30-footer and freak out on Sunday. But best bet this week, who do you like?
I got Max Homa. So Max Homa is a Poana guy. He's been pretty good. He missed a cut here at the U.S. Open, but he gained on approach. He got 6th at the Memorial, so he's fine. His approach has been great, 2.2, 2.3. He's been great. As far as putting, I think he has the chance to putt pretty well, and that's why I like him. He's a young guy, and guys who watch golf, you've seen him. He's an active Twitter guy. Then all of a sudden, he actually started to get pretty good. Like he started like really finishing well and performing.
He got 2 wins.
Right, 2 wins. Specifically, he was kind of performing in California, but I think he's good enough to start doing more performances outside of California. So I like him this week. I think the course fits him pretty well. He's got enough power and enough length that he can kind of go in these spots while also just giving himself birdie opportunities. I like his putting because when it spikes, it really spikes. So right here, I got U.S. Open. He lost 2.3 putting. The week before that, he gained 6.5. Then he lost 1.1. Then the week before that, he gained 5.7. So there's a little bit of a up and down spike, when he kind of feels that he's got that confidence. I like kind of riding that back and forth, and if he can get another big spike, he'll be right there in the top 20, and he's my best bet of the week.
I have kind of a similar guy, Sam Burns, top 20, plus 250. Burns is squarely in my formula for this week. He's 11th strokes gained approach the last 36. 3rd in opportunities gained, and 1st in birdies or better gained. He's one of those guys who can just get super, super hot. And to boot, he's a really, really good putter. He's top 15 in strokes gained putting over the last 36 rounds. I just like Burns. He has the length, too, to take advantage of the short course when it allows him to. And he's made the cut in both tries here with a couple decent finishes, nothing super high, but all you need is a top 20 here. His last 2 starts haven't been great, but I think it was a little bit of a letdown after he finished 1st and 2nd in back-to-back weeks. The 2 weeks before that, he finally got over the hump, got his first win, backed it up with a 2nd the next week. Then he finished 50th at the Memorial, but he gained 3 on approach, and then he gained putting last week. He didn't make the cut, but he's a perfect fit. So top 20 plus 250, that's a pretty solid number.
He got a sneaky win earlier this year. Like he won on tour. That's a pretty big deal. We've been kind of looking for that out of him because his ceiling is pretty high, and we've seen that because
really high. He's super talented.
Right. He can hit it far, and he can also make putts. And when you have those 2 things as a combination, you can always do some pretty crazy things on the golf course. And so I really like that. He's going to have the confidence, like you said, he's going to be able to take advantage of these landing spots and then these approaches that are going to be super short. He could have approaches this week that are flirting with 100 or lower on some holes.
Definitely.
So when you're up that high and you can putt pretty well, his opportunity is going to be just as good as anybody else's.
Yep. Well, those are our picks for this week. Go check out our Twitter post. We'll have all of them in a spreadsheet so you can look at them and check them real quick. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.